In this video, we are going to talk about a very important concept which is often very confused amongst the students, including myself. I was very confused about this topic. I researched a lot, I understood myself, and then I was confident enough to come to this video, explain it to you. What do you mean by balanced budget multiplier? I hope you understand the very word which is right there in front, which is not in front exactly, but the second word, that is budget. What do you mean by budget? What do you think? I mean, we personally make certain budgets, right? Even the government often has to plan out that what is the level of expenditure it's going to make in the coming year. What are the sources of income that that they are going to receive? What is going to be their government receipts? So when the government tries to chalk out, tries to record the different areas and the amounts which they have to spend and the different kinds of income that they can generate, that is, they try to chalk out, they try to record what is going to be their government expenditure, and also when they try to record what is going to be their government receipt, that recording itself is known as budget, government budget. So imagine that I have this book right in front of me. I am the government, so I plan out on what source, on what areas I'm going to spend. On education, I'm going to spend this much. On transfer payments, I'm going to spend this much. And when I'm recording all this, and right there on the right side, I have all the receipts. So from the taxes, I'm going to collect this much. From non-tax revenues, for example, penalties, license fee, all these things, I'm going to collect this much. So when I'm recording all this, this recording, this document which holds all this recording is known as budget. You understood? Now this budget itself can be of three types, more or less. We can have a surplus budget. As the name suggests, surplus budget is when you have more of inflow than what is going to be on the outflow side, indicating that your expenditures are lower than your receipts. Then this is technically what you mean by surplus budget. You have more of government receipts. Then you can have deficit budget. Deficit budget, on the other hand, is quite the contrary. It means that you are spending a lot of money than what you are receiving. So your expenditure is slightly on the higher side. Or you could have something which is known as a balanced budget. Balanced budget, theoretically, it's possible, not in the real world. Real world deficit budget is quite common, but we can have theoretically at least what is known as balanced budget. And it might seem a very ideal kind of budget, but you see that macroeconomics often suggests that deficit budget is one which is ideal, but we'll talk about it later on. Balanced budget is something which is in the case where expenditure and receipts both are equal. So the government is spending, suppose, $1,000, and the government is also receiving $1,000. So it matches exactly. Therefore, you are balanced. You are not spending too high. You are not spending too little. You are spending exactly the amount that you can earn, basically. So this is what is balanced budget. Now, the very central question which arises in case of balanced budget multiplier is that, is it possible that if a government follows a balanced budget, that is, it tries to inject $1,000 and it tries to take back $1,000 in the form of taxes, suppose, although we know that the receipts that the government has can be from non-tax sources as well, but let us just take taxes for now. So if the government is spending $1,000, injecting $1,000, and the government is also taking out, or the government is actually taking away $1,000 in the form of taxes, will it have any influence on the level of national income? Because if you have learned about government expenditure multiplier, which comes prior to this, you know that injecting certain amount of money by the government helps stimulate the economy and therefore multiplies the income to a certain extent. You have studied tax multiplier also, where you have seen that taking away, or rather not taking away, I would say rather increasing the level of taxes would help the government to reduce the level of income that the people have. I mean, if government taxes away more from the public, then definitely they'll have lower income, lower disposable income to spend. So definitely you have understood these two concepts, that yes, injecting in more money by the government is going to help stimulate the economy. On the other hand, taking away more taxes, that is, if tax increases, it will have a negative impact on the level of income. So if you're following a balanced budget, that is, you're injecting and you are leaking out exactly the same amount of money from the circulation, will it help the economy anyway? Is it just useless? I mean, should we even follow a balanced budget? Should that concept be there in economics? Well, it turns out that your thinking, which might seem like, yeah, it's not going to have any effect on the economy, is not quite right. It will have at least 1 times the effect in the economy. So we'll see what does that mean. Let us set our basics right. Let us understand first the concept of MPC. I know that you know about it, of course, if you're here, but there is something about it which we often not think, and because of that lack of thinking, we often struggle with this concept of balanced budget multiplier. So let us go there. Let us understand what is MPC and what does it mean. We need to know it in detail. Let us go there. Now, suppose I tell you that MPC is equal to 0.8. Can you tell me what does that mean? Marginal propensity to consume is 0.8. 0.8 means 80%. If you are quite, okay with maths, you know that this is true. So 0.8 is 80%. You can just multiply it with 100 and see that's 80%. The idea which is there is that what does MPC even mean? And in order to explain that, let me put forward a small table in front of you. Suppose you have national income, you have consumption. So your national income is 0. You know that even if national income is 0, consumption is not going to be 0. You know that, right? So suppose it's 40. This is autonomous consumption. Basic need for survival is there, right? And if your income increases by 100, suppose your consumption increases by 80. Again, when your income increases by 100, your consumption increases by 80 again, suppose. So let us consider these two parts. Your income increases by 100. Your consumption increases by 80. So why did your consumption only increase by 80? Because your MPC is 80%. MPC simply means that if your income increases by suppose 100, how much of that 100 you're going to consume? Since your MPC is 80%, it means that you will consume 80% of that 100, which means you'll consume 80 out of it. So it means that if your income increases by 100, so I am from India, of course, so I have the tendency to write my own currency. But suppose I would just keep it very cool, 100, just that. If your income increases by 100, your consumption increases by how much? 80% of that 100, which turns out to be 80. This is very, very lucid, very plain. Now I'm asking you to think in the reverse order. In the reverse order, it would mean, because you see, income and consumption are directly related. So if your income is going to increase, your consumption is also going to increase. But think about it other way around. Think about it in this way, that suppose your income falls by 100. If your income falls by 100, your consumption reduces by 80 only. So why is it happening? If your income is reducing by 100, why aren't you reducing your consumption by exactly 100? Why are you reducing less of your consumption? I mean, if you are earning 100 less, you should consume 100 less, but you are consuming only 80 less. Why not exactly 100? And the answer to this is there in a lot of consumption theories that are built later on after Keynes. But we could just say here, with a general perspective, that it could be due to a basic standard of living that the person is living currently. So at this level of income, I am maintaining a certain standard of living. And if in a single night I lose my income, it's not going to be as quick that I'm going to, cut off all the standards that I'm maintaining right now. Suppose I have air conditioner, I have refrigerator, I have a basic standard that I maintain. I travel through cars, and it's not going to be a sudden event that due to a loss of my income, I'm going to cut down all my expenditure in a single go. Because that adjustment requires time. People adapt to a certain standard of living, and that standard of living cannot be quickly changed, cannot be quickly altered. So if your income falls, your consumption will not exactly fall by the same amount. It will only reduce by 80% of that amount. So it will only reduce by 80. And if you see clearly, your income has reduced by 100, so you're only earning 100, but your consumption is reduced by 80, which means that you're still consuming 120 more than your income. So you might think that where from that extra money is coming in order to consume? Well, that can come from this savings. When you were earning a good amount, you must have saved quite a bit. So you're using that amount. So you have to think it the other way around also. You have to think that if your income falls by 100, your consumption, I'm writing it briefly, your consumption falls by only 80% of it. So your consumption only falls by 80, right? So what does that mean? It means that if the government thinks that I'm going to increase my taxes, well, it's going to reduce your consumption, but not quite as much. Because people will find a tendency to use their savings in order to compensate for that extra consumption that they're making, because they cannot quickly adjust to the new standard of living, which has occurred due to their loss of income. So please understand, what does that mean? When the government tries to inject 100, suppose, when the government tries to inject a certain amount of money in the economy, that injection will add up to the incomes in the hands of the people, and therefore through the government expenditure multiplier, we know that it's going to increase the income of the individuals. Similarly, when the government tries to leak out that same amount, so suppose government was injecting 100, now the government is trying to leak out 100 in the form of taxes, but that leaking out would not reduce consumption as much. People will still consume, and if people are consuming, it means that people are demanding for goods and services. When they are demanding for goods and services, when they are paying out of their savings which they made earlier, there is income still rotating in the hands of the people. And this is something that you need to sit down and think about it. People are not reducing their consumption exactly by 100, they're only reducing by a little amount. The extra amount that they're consuming is coming out of their savings, which means what? Which means that there is still a good amount of money that is being spent on consumption. And if money is being spent on consumption, it is adding to the incomes of the people who are selling those goods and services. Therefore, this chain effect, this multiplication effect is still working. So, a change in the government expenditure, an increment in the government expenditure would help the economy in a very, very strong way. But an increment in the tax would not quite drastically impact the economy in the negative way, because increasing taxes would definitely have a negative impact in the economy, but not quite as drastic as that of the government expenditure is going to have positive impact on the economy. So let us take a numerical example and you'll see this in action. So suppose I give you a numerical example right here, that suppose MPC is 0.8 and you know what does that mean. And suppose I tell you that the government expenditure increases by 100. So as per the government expenditure multiplier, we know, what do we know? We know that the change in the income due to the change in the government expenditure is given by this formula. And using this formula, because we know that the government expenditure is increasing by 100, if I put it right here, the change in the income by 100 is equal to 1 minus 0.8, which comes out to be 0.2, and this is change in income by 100, and 2 by 10, 10 by 2, 5 times. So change in income is going to be 500. So 5 times basically. So basically an increment, an injection in the economy of 100 through the government expenditure will have a 5 times the impact on the income. Now think about it, that what happens when the government tries to increase the taxes by the same amount following a balanced budget, right? The government expenditure and the government receipts, taxes are government receipts, right? Both increase by the same amount. So let's see, what does the tax multiplier say? Well, the tax multiplier has its own formula. The tax multiplier says that the change in income due to change in taxes is equal to minus MPC by 1 minus MPC. So change in income by 100 is equal to minus 0.8 by 1 minus 0.8, which is change in income by 100 is equal to minus 0.8 by 0.2. This is nothing but minus 8 by 10 by 2 by 10 comes out to be 4. So change in income is going to be 100 times minus 4, which is minus 400. So what is the net effect on your income? Due to your injection of money, your national income increased by 500. But due to increment of your taxes, your your national income only reduced by 400. So there is still an extra income generated worth of 100. And that extra income generated worth of 100 is exactly equal to the amount of injection and the amount of leakage you made. So if you follow a balanced budget multiplier, it's not that your income will not be affected at all. Rather, your income will be affected exactly by the same amount by which you increased the government expenditure or increased your taxes. So you have to sit with this topic. Please take my word for it. If you sit with this topic quite enough, you'll understand what is the working mechanism happening right underneath it. Right? So what is the net effect? So net effect on income is basically 500 increment, 400 fall, 100. So the change in income is equal to the change in government expenditure and the change in taxes. And that's why the balanced budget multiplier is equal to 1. But I can prove it to you in a very simple way. The balanced budget multiplier is basically a multiplier which calculates the net impact on income due to following a balanced budget, indicating it is the summation of both government expenditure multiplier and also tax multiplier. So that comes out to be the government expenditure multiplier, which is 1 by 1 minus MPC, plus the tax multiplier, which is minus MPC by 1 minus MPC. If you take LCM, that is 1 minus MPC, and 1 plus minus minus MPC cuts out 1. 1 means unity in mathematics, right? So what does that mean? It means that your income will exactly multiply or get multiplied by 1, indicating whatever amount of injection you're making, whatever amount of increment of taxes you're making, provided it is a balanced budget, then your impact on income will be exactly by the same amount. It's not that it will not have any impact on your income, it will have an equal impact on the income. I hope this video helped you out, and please take my word for it, sit down a bit, think about it, provided your basics about all those previous multipliers and all those Keynesian workings are quite top notch.